Well, good morning, Crosswalk. How are you? Welcome to all of our friends, guests. We're glad that you are here, our full-time family. It is great to be together to worship. And I just think, what a great way to lead into what we're going to talk about, the precious blood of Jesus. Shed for me, shed for you. The invitation as we conclude, in a way, more on that later, our Nehemiah series. I think it's a perfect time for me to introduce you to Anaya Parker. Anaya is, she's become a part of our family here at Crosswalk, and later this afternoon, she will be rebaptized. And maybe the thing, maybe the thing that I want to really put an exclamation point beside is a conversation, what a privilege it is whenever I get the chance to walk beside somebody making a commitment like this. The conversation is kind of predictable, I will say. Middle schoolers, older people alike, everyone in between. So regularly, we have this conversation. I want to be baptized, but I think I'm not ready yet. You just need to be forewarned. When you share with me that you really want to be baptized, but maybe you're not ready yet, I think that means you're very ready. Because part of the journey is to fight against the sense that there is something we add to the blood of Jesus. And I'll get to that. I've got a habit. I've got a thing. I need to at least see that I've got a good enough track record. Oh, trust me, you don't. We don't. It is the blood of Jesus that has already been shed. It is simply this. Anaya, do you want to say yes? Do you want to commit? Are you ready for a journey where you invite him to mess you up? If the answer to that is yes, then you probably shouldn't wait. Somebody here, this may be a current conversation for. I just welcome you. You won't feel pressure from me, but you will probably encounter some of the words of Jesus that say, today's the day. So it's such a privilege to be invited into this story, and I just wanted you to be able to see a face, a name. Welcome her when you get the chance. We're in Nehemiah chapter 6. This is pretty much the finale of the book of Nehemiah as we are going through this series. For those of you that have really enjoyed this series, fear not. Next week is Campus Week. I wrote this series, and there's something that couldn't fit that we're going to get into because we can. But for the conclusion of this series as written, okay, so that's what's happening here. You know, those of you that haven't been along for the journey, the book of Nehemiah is this last gasp of the Old Testament before it goes silent until the coming of the Christ. And Nehemiah's heart has been wrecked by understanding that the community, he wouldn't know to call it, but the community of Christ is in danger. The cross of Christ, foreshadowed by the altar of sacrifice, the temple, it's all there in the city, but the city is not safe for people to come to the sacrifice. And so he embarks on building the walls of safety, fighting for a place where you and I could be included, where the people of God can come. And there's been a lot of work. By the time we finish this chapter, it will say on October 2, doesn't say that in the Hebrew, the wall was finished just 52 days after we had begun. You ever have one of these experiences where it's like, this is forever? We're never going to get across the goal line. This is ridiculous. I don't think there's enough sweat and tears to make this happen. And then you pull back in the centuries of our lives, we pull back and look at it and go, actually, that happened pretty fast. 52 days. Perseverance is required even for 52 days. Perseverance is required for today. And when you're in the middle of the broken walls, you can't see another 2 weeks into the future. You can't see past the rubble of today. And maybe in our most mature selves, if we could jump forward and look back, we'd go, yeah, but that was just for a season. Right now, when you're in the middle of the season, it seems like it's the forever new reality that you will never get out of. So here we go. Just 52 days. We've spent time talking about what moves our hearts with the heartbeat of Jesus, being willing to step up and decide the thing that hurts my heart on behalf of God's cause. Probably I shouldn't expect everybody else to be doing something about it. I may need to step up and do something about it. We've talked a little bit in terms of our own personal journey with Jesus. We thought about things corporately as a faith community. There are certainly applications and implications for things like any community that's considering or moving forward with a major project in their facility, in their building, and that seems like the pretty tried and true way to go, and we have that, right? So there are little sparking, arcing thoughts that keep jumping into the middle of this story. If we consider, early on, we really focused on some of the ways we slow down because we're attacked by outsiders. Last week, we talked about what it feels like when you're attacked by people who profess to be on your side. And today, though a number of those other areas and elements could have been used for this message too, chapter 6 really helps us consider that there is a very sneaky approach that I wonder if it doesn't decelerate us fastest and furthest. That'll be our last little move to consider. And these are not, though there are some in this story in chapter 6, these are not really focusing on the attack of that enemy over there who's from outside the walls, nor even the stunningly awful attack by someone who says they're a follower of the same God as me. This is the attack that happens from the inside of my own head. It seems to me the two times this is most prevalent are either at the beginning points when we don't even start, or past the halfway point when momentum should carry us and our enemy is most desperate. And so we get into it. Nehemiah 6, verse 1. Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem, the Arab, and the rest of our enemies found out that I had finished rebuilding the wall. The walls are done. There are no gaps in the walls. It's been an amazing community effort. Teams have been built. Community has been strengthened, not just in the stone and the timbers, but in the relationships. Isn't it true? When you go through something, working hard for something that doesn't seem all that possible, and God blesses it, you draw close. I wonder how many of you have a thing that at the time you said, no way do I want to go through that, but afterwards looking back, it's kind of your touchstone moment with somebody who understands in a way nobody else can because they didn't go through it. A little over 2 years ago, we had that happen here in the space where we sit. Kind of feeling displaced, bouncing around as a community, and miraculously, God gave us this building. I kind of wonder if we don't have that coming up really soon again, where what is required to do this ministry in the ways God seems to be blessing us is going to require this crazy levels of faith that push past what you and I have in our pockets to give God. Well, Sanballat, Tobiah, Geshem, the Arab, and the rest of our enemies found out that I had finished rebuilding the wall and that no gaps remained, though we had not yet set up the doors in the gates. It is this little tiny throwaway thing, just the doors. Of course, the way in and the way out is often where the most danger can occur. Have you noticed? How many of our hurts have happened on the way in and the way out of the places that should be safest? So, Sanballat and Geshem, they sent a message asking me to meet them at one of the villages in the plain of Ono. Now, those of you that have been along for the whole ride, you know when Sanballat and Tobiah and Geshem, Sanballat, we'll just go with when Sanballat shows up, problems are arriving. So it is right to be very skeptical of all of this, but they're sending this message, hey, come meet us over here on the plain, the villages on the plain of Ono. Maybe the name itself, if they had spoken English at that time, it would have been enough of a warning to say, we'd like you to come to Ono. Now, you should be aware, maybe you're not, this plain, the place that he's inviting, that being invited to, is a day's journey from Judah. It's probably a 3-day event to go and do this. Almost finished. Almost finished. So the attack that comes from the inside, because it's on their invitation, you could blame it all on them, but Nehemiah has the option of what to do with this. Have you ever felt like, okay, this thing that just must be done for the good of my family, for my schoolwork, for the business that I'm leading, this thing that needs to be done, it just has to be done, it has to be done now. On the other hand, I could do this instead. It is this thing that happens inside of us, and it is an ever-mounting, ever-building challenge and problem. We are, and I'm going to say a generation, and don't see that as a specific age grouping, but a time period. We are more distracted than ever in history. Anybody here filled with a little bit of terror when brake lights suddenly come on in front of you and you glance in the rearview mirror and you see somebody doing this? We are distracted, easily moved off of what God has called us to do. Here's the thing about these sneak attacks here. Our fight back has all to do with choices we get to make and attitudes we are allowed to claim. Nehemiah, it says, realized that they were plotting to harm him. First of all, there's a lot of evidence that this could be so, previous to chapter 6. But he is also deeply insightful. I would also just say that when you have regular conversations with God, there are things he can do in communication with me that he otherwise can't. And he knows this is a distraction. This is a plot. And it's not just a plot to get, I wonder if, similar to Nehemiah, if you back away from the thing God is calling you to, if it doesn't threaten your actual spiritual life entirely. I replied by sending this message to them: I'm engaged in a great work, so I can't come. Why should I stop working and come to meet with you? Hey, why don't you come over here? We'd love to meet with you. We've had issues in the past. We should resolve this. By the way, distractions often have little bits of good things. Reasonable things. Shouldn't a Christian be willing to go and try to work things out? But this is not day one of this problem. And he knows, actually, this will keep us from getting things done and probably isn't safe either. Why don't you come? If you're going to come, let's just hash this out. And if you don't mind, why don't you come to like California? Let's go on a day's journey, and you'll be over there. We'll spend a day, then you can go back, and we'll get you away from your community. Oh, be suspicious when the devil's attacks lead you to consider walking away from the community of safety. And then there's this. Some of you might be familiar with Jim Collins, wrote a book, Good to Great. It's now really old. Followed it up with a book, Great by Choice, in which he kind of chronicles and uses to teach some, it's not a spiritual book, it's about incredible organizations, usually businesses, and how they succeed and how they are different from just good organizations, the really great ones that sustain over time. and he takes a look at the comparison from 1911 of two expeditions trying to reach the South Pole. Roald Amundsen and Robert F. Scott had so many similarities. One of the differences, Collins points out, knowing that Amundsen reaches the South Pole, Robert F. Scott's whole expedition perishes. One of the differences is that Amundsen determined to only have and absolutely have a 20-mile march every day. So they go 20 miles and they stop. It's blizzarding. And Scott's group tries a couple of miles, and Amundsen goes 20. And here's the interesting thing Collins points out. Then it is a beautiful, unreasonably warm day where you could travel further. And Scott's group goes 30 miles. Amundsen goes 20, 20, 20, 20. No distraction, no exception, no variation, 20. And he gets there. It's an interesting notion that going further than you ought causes you to go less far than you could. And you know when this starts to happen? When you have success. Think about our community here. We've been really careful to identify very specific things that we feel called about, and it's part of why God is blessing, because he's blessed through that whole process. But you know, every day somebody will show up and say, you know what we should be doing? Here's something you should do. And it's a good thing. Here's something you should do. Here's something you should do. Here's something you should do. Here's something. And if you go on those 30-mile marches, when you set out for a 20-mile march, you can so easily end up distracted from the core of what God has called you to. It's really important to lock in. This is probably true if you run a business, certainly true in your own family, and the most distracting things can be good things that aren't the right thing. So, I encourage you to have clear conversations with God about your 20-mile march. What is the test item that must happen in your life, that must happen in this community, where other things can fit at times, but ought never distract us from our 20-mile march? Success will talk us into forgetting our earlier conversations with God. Honestly, part of it can be pride. Because church life can be a really big struggle. There's a lot of desperation out there. There are plenty of churches that don't have people coming through the doors except a scant few. There are lots of churches who would look in here and go, wait, what? You've got young people in there. What in the world's going on? And then we find our way into the next challenge and the next challenge, and success can be so distracting, and our personal sense of who we are starts to lift off the ground and get right in the way of the God of our calling. Nehemiah 6:4, so 4 times they sent the same message. Each time I gave the same reply. I'm not moving. I'm doing something important. Side note, I find it always an interesting test when somebody comes up with a ministry idea. Hey, you know what you should be doing? You should have this. You should do this. One of the interesting things is to ask, well, what do you need to do that? Because usually, they meant for me to do it. And it's a great idea. What do you think you need? 4 times they sent the same message, and each time I gave the same reply. Then the 5th time, Sanballat's servant came with an open letter in his hand, and this is what it said. And this shifts now from this sneak attack number 1 of distraction to sneak attack number 2. And it's a sneak attack that I believe usually is deployed on when other forms of attack are not working. But it relies on, it is dependent on us giving space to it. So the 5th time, instead, Sanballat's servant came with an open letter in his hand. This is an open letter from a government official of one nation to a government official of another nation, and this would always be sealed. Why is it open? To at the very least give the impression everyone's talking about this. You ever have somebody come up to you, say, so some people are saying, I've come now in my short life of experience. To hear it this way. People are talking. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're one of the people. Because frankly, I don't need you to talk about it. If I talk to you about it, now people are talking. Okay. There is a rumor. The partners of rumor, the start, the seed, and gossip. Okay. That's an interesting story. Have they heard it? Have you heard it? I just got to say, God speaks incredibly harshly about rumor and gossip. No, if you're familiar with Proverbs where it says God hates 6 things. Oh, actually, like he wasn't writing this and couldn't correct it. Oh, actually, 7. 3, some would say even more. 3 of the 7 things God hates are stuff that comes out of our mouths. That distract, destroy, thwart, and the last one, God hates when people stir up the community of God. So this attack, see, because the rumor didn't come from, I didn't start the rumor, I didn't want a rumor. But inside, the one whose hands are on the bricks and the timbers, it's required for this to thwart the progress requires that I give space to it, that I allow it to start to change me. There are always going to be rumors. There are always going to be gossipy little things. But what happens is God's people become distracted and discouraged because they take it in, they consume it, and they become kind of changed by it. And we will step away to argue. We will sideline ourselves to try to figure out who said it? Who said it? Then we got to assemble our proofs, and everyone knows the best place to prove yourself is on social media. Because that's effective. So there's this rumor among the surrounding nations, open letter. Even if nobody else read this yet, you know they could have. People are talking. Here's what the rumor is, Nehemiah. Oh, and I've got a witness, Geshem, who's never been on your side, but who says it's true. That you and the Jews are planning to rebel. All of this is a setup for why you're building this wall. It's actually rebellion. I want to recommend to you this notion that when God's kingdom begins to grow, because of walls of safety, there will always be those who are jealous or who do not like what is happening and will want to insert the kind of commentary that says, yeah, but I know your hearts. You're trying for an easy way. You're full of yourself. These aren't walls of safety. These are walls of arrogance. No, they're not. No, they're not. Nehemiah is not distracted by this. He's not discouraged from it. this letter goes on to say, according to this report, you plan to be the king. He also reports that you have approached prophets in Jerusalem to proclaim about you, look, there is a king. You are paying people off to kind of go and announce, hey, the king. How many of you have ever felt this? You've felt it, right? Somebody took something that is true, you're helping lead something is moving forward, walls are being built, and you know what kinds of impressions could happen, and somebody says, you know what? We know this is personal gain for you, and then you either have to decide, well, it's not worth it, I guess I should sit down, I should go somewhere else. This is the way church always is, I'm gonna leave. Because we give space to the rumors. And rumors are calculated to infect the insiders. You probably have had that moment where it was so ridiculous it didn't make it into your head, but you're watching people step off the wall beside you. And now they are participating in the rumors and the gossip. And you just see people dropping off the mission. Oh, be careful about giving space to. Oh, be careful about participating in those things that stir up the community of God to cause us to drop the mission and go elsewhere, do otherwise. Oh, so Nehemiah, yes. Nehemiah, you can be very sure that this report is going to get back to the king, so I suggest that you come and talk it over with me. There's still a way out. I'm still your friend. You can still come a day's journey to, oh no, and we will talk this out. You need me on your side. This one who's never been on your side, who has done all sorts of things, has gotten to the point where he is so sure the wall is going to be completed that the tactic shifts. I've got a couple of last-ditch efforts. You know, there's something that I think is helpful because we live in a world filled with innuendo and rumor and dirtying the pool with one kind of comment. It doesn't have to be true if I can get it to stick. There are some specific identifiers that are helpful to consider in this distraction of rumors. The first is, keep in mind, rumors tend to thrive on anonymity. Someone said, I can't tell you. First of all, the first way it thrives is it distracts you by trying to figure out who it is. And then you try to defend yourself to the wind. And it comes. I know some individuals who will say, you know what, if you receive, and of course as pastors, as leaders of organizations, as community members who lead your own small business, or you do, look, sooner or later somebody sends you something and it's anonymous, and it's maybe scathing or it's pretty pointed. I know some people that say, you know what you do is, anonymous thing sent to you, you immediately file in that basket that someone will take away. Don't even read it if it's anonymous. Are you able to do that? I struggle with that. I got this anonymous letter while I was the senior pastor at the Collegedale Church, a church that partnered with the university, and so sometimes there were guests in the pulpit who I wasn't even responsible to or for. The university had scheduled them or whatever, and so things would happen every once in a while. I get this letter. I've saved this portion of this letter just because I need to think about it occasionally in terms of my own behavior. I'll just read you this portion from this anonymous letter. If in the future you allow reprobates, calm language, such as, and then the name of an individual, to spread their cancerous perspectives at the university church, you will be encouraging the fall of Adventism and of our nation. So if you have sensed trouble in our nation, you now can share, you know the guy, responsible. Can I tell you, so many problems in the whole thing. An approach that really relies on some lunacy. And I still anonymous. I still can't help but look at the postmark on it to try to figure out, do we even have anybody in our membership that lives in that space? And we have to be careful of being drawn into, because there's always some little, yes, I'm the senior pastor. Yes, I feel responsibility over the pulpit. Rumors also regularly rely on exaggeration. You can do it in one word, like reprobates. I think if you disagree with them and that sort of thing, you'd like my involvement in working out a conversation. Yeah, okay, but reprobates. Oh, and if this person ever speaks to other human beings, the nation will fall, right? They also conveniently ignore context. It wouldn't matter to this individual to understand I really had nothing to do with this person standing and speaking. That's context that's really neither here nor there. I'd like to get in and fire a torpedo at you, and maybe something will happen in my favor. Partial quotes, facts left out, saying things that we understand full well the grander perspective, but we know if I say it this way, it can be taken that way. You see, the thing is, people who would never walk up to another human being and slap them across the face will stab them in the back with rumors. And I've noticed that the family of God often relies on being able to say, hey, we didn't start it. Because the retaliation of rumor for rumor, gossip for gossip, God doesn't seem to differentiate in how much he hates it. See, rumors are calculated to tear things down, to stop progress. Ephesians says this: do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths. And if you read that and you think to yourself, yeah, you shouldn't use swear words, you shouldn't do like spicy jokes, or maybe there are times of day and situations in which you shouldn't say certain sorts of things. Well, Paul finishes this thought this way: do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths. What's unwholesome talk? Well, the talk you should be having is that which is helpful for building other people up according to your needs. No, according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. You could be absolutely telling the truth, but we should test ourselves over whether that's wholesome and building up others. And just by saying, look, they have chosen not to be in these walls of safety. They're outsiders lobbing grenades at us, and so we're going to take them down. You should always be suspicious that another person, given the blood of Jesus Christ, is only a day away from being our partner in these seats. And I should never be the one responsible giving the data that suggests it wouldn't be safe here. So I replied, look, hey, there's no truth in any part of your story. You're making up the whole thing, and then goes back to the wall, right? He doesn't spend time defending himself needlessly. He makes a statement. Others can know it. He doesn't call a big, huge meeting where everybody has to come off of the wall. They're not going to have like a week of revival kind of focus over here, even though that's a good thing, but it would take them off the wall. He's staying at the wall. This attack of discouragement. Look, rumors will happen. The question is, do I give space to it? Because I will come away from what God has called me to address rumors too thoroughly. And Nehemiah says this: look, here's the bottom line of all this. They were trying to frighten us. They were thinking their hands will get too weak for the work. It's not about them actually making the point or that this thing is so true you all need to know. No, it's an attempt to cause us to put down the blocks, the bricks, the stones of God's calling, of moving us forward in him. And then Nehemiah This is so repeatedly his approach. I prayed and I worked. Yep. I kept at it. This last little bit, the third little sneak attack. Later, I went to visit Shemaiah, son of Daliah and grandson of Mehetabel, who was confined to his home. Interesting. This is one of the insiders. This is one of the Jews. So I went to see him. He said, hey, actually, let us meet together inside the temple of God and bolt the doors shut. Your enemies are coming to kill you tonight. And here sits the final sneak attack. It would never come from something deeply unreasonable. It comes in reasonable language. And that is the sneak attack of compromise. But I replied, should someone in my position run from danger? Should someone in my position enter the temple to save his own life? No, I won't do it. In fact, what Nehemiah is pointing at here, and you might need to have it filled in, the idea is we're going to be behind closed doors in the temple. We're going to go into some spaces no one would ever know to look for you because we're not actually allowed in there. But you're important. This is God's work. You cannot be sacrificed. So let's do what should not be done for something that should be done. See, that's the trouble. Very few of us are going to be willing to just outright say, yeah, let's do what shouldn't be done for another thing that shouldn't be done. I'm all in on shouldn't be done. No, it starts with this. Well, should happen. We should be protected. This is a big deal. He's just gotten done talking about how I know this is all trying to weaken me. This is a threat to my life. There's all of this. And somebody says, yeah, let's protect you. Let's protect you. Let's come in here. And we are often given the opportunity to end up with the thing that is the right thing the wrong way. And here's the absolute truth of it. Because this is one of the last attacks. This is one of the last opportunities for the enemy to get us because we're headed the right direction. And so David is in a cave and Saul comes in to go to the bathroom and his men say, God has blessed with his biological needs. You should kill him now. And David refuses. David, who believes, I have been anointed king by God, but I will not do this the wrong way. Jesus is told, this thing that you've come to this planet for, to save humanity, it can all happen now, like this. Just bow to me. You'll get the right thing the wrong way. You'll get the right thing the wrong way. When you get the right thing the wrong way, it's not the right thing at all. And the followers of Jesus cannot resort to justifying the wrong thing just because we know God has called us to go there. If God has indeed called us, he will help us do it the right way. And that might mean sometimes not accepting money from a source that we shouldn't. It might mean falling short of a ministry idea that does not come in line with the principles we espouse. Bottom line is Nehemiah will say, this is a great big thing that's going on, and I cannot stop. I cannot come down. I will not give space to the things that would pull me away. Surely, hopefully, you're up to something for God that's big enough that you will suffer from temptation of these distractions. Hopefully you and I will stay the kind of committed that allows us to say, it seemed like forever then, but now as I look back on it, God was just moving, plowing forward so amazingly. And in 52 days, the walls were, it's crazy. And maybe before we leave it, because it is the theme that we've been studying. It matters that we put our deep energies into providing, creating for the honor of God, a place of safety where the cross is lifted, where his bloodshed is available, where others feel the pull to the cross, and we're not a speed bump to getting there. Because let's be honest, this isn't about you. It isn't about me. It's about the one who is worthy. Lord, some of us need more courage for today than others because some of us have been struggling with these attacks, these lures, these temptations to wander away, to turn away, to spend time on what even can feel like justifiable, important things, but that will take us away from your calling. Some of us are distracted in our own personal journey with you. We know we want to do this. We want to follow you. We want to commit to you, but that'll happen someday. Help us to hear your voice, that there is just today. Our community, our church family here, the ways that you've been blessing have actually caused us concern in our hearts for what we do next, how we go, how we move, how we make your love, your name available to our kids, to our community. So as we wrestle, as we work, fill us with focus on the one who is worthy of it all. Worthy is your name. Would you stand and sing?